Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Thai Q3 Hedera webinar focused on consumer engagement. With today, we have Reality Plus and the HBAR Foundation, THF. We're honored to have Alex Russman, Head of Consumer Engagement Fund at HBAR Foundation, and Tony Pearce, CEO and founder of Reality Plus, with us. Um, if you're not yet familiar with the Hedera blockchain and its unique features, I recommend you go watch the replay from our previous quarterly webinars. And if you want to learn more, please feel free to reach out to Alex for more information. So today's discussion will explore the overarching strategies and the key initiative in Hedera's consumer engagement and Web3 gaming ecosystem. So that's going to be the focus for today. As always, please remember the insights shared today are for informational purposes only and should not be considered investment advice. With that, without further ado, let's get started. So let's start with our speakers. Alex, please go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Alex Russman, and I'm head of the Consumer Engagement Fund at the HBAR Foundation. I guess usually these introductions should be focused on why you'd be interested in listening to me for the next hour, as well as Tony. And I joined the Hedera ecosystem at the start of 2021, but prior to that, I worked in the Ethereum space as head of developer partnerships for a company called Engine. So it might be a name unfamiliar to some, but Engine co-authored the second major NFT standard, ERC 1155. And so I've had the pleasure of being at the forefront of NFT innovation from an early stage, I guess, coming up 6 years now. And with Engine, I worked on some really cool projects, like the first metaverse digital fashion project with Atari, The Fabricant, Artifact, who were quickly acquired by Nike. Nike also used the ERC 1155 in their 2019 CryptoKicks patent. But it was the opportunities with enterprises, or as I say, industry leaders, which really excited me. And Engine worked directly with BMW on their car loyalty app and also delivered an NFT recognition system for Microsoft Azure developer program. But I joined Hedera really because I wanted to see this DLT technology scale in the fastest way possible in close collaboration with the best industry minds. And we'll be talking about that more on this session.
Awesome.
Thanks, Alex.
Alex. And Tony, your turn.
Yeah, thanks, Sacha. As Sacha mentioned, I am the CEO and co-founder of Reality Plus. Quick background into me, I come from the video games industry. So I go back 25 years, all the way back to Sega, Nintendo, early PlayStation 1, very early Nokia black and white handset games, all the way through to super console quality Apple and Google mobile apps. And in 2016, 2017, started to look at how the blockchain could be used, integrating into some of our mobile games. And I think back then, looking at the fact that in the future, gamers could own their in-game items and sell them to their friends when they finish the game, or trade them, or even the word interoperability was something like incredibly sexy back then, taking my sword from one game to the other. And that was a game changer in our minds. And we really felt that in-game ownership of digital items was something that every gamer would want to do. And we kind of doubled down back in 2017, and now we fast forward to here, and we work with some of the biggest brands in the world, including the BBC, FIFA, ITV, Tour de France, and they all have a Web3 integration.
And pretty excited to delve into some of those verticals with you today. So let's start with our first topic for today, which is consumer engagement. So Alex, can you explain to us what consumer engagement means to Hedera, and why is that a big focus vertical for THF?
Yeah, so when we launched the HBAR Foundation, really the Hedera BD team going independent and launching this grant-giving foundation, the fund area was called the Metaverse Fund, but the working title was always, that's a bit dry, the Consumer Engagement Fund. Metaverse has now become to mean too many things for too many people. But consumer engagement speaks to, on the one hand, a technical focus on your NFTs, their standards, the consumer interactions with products like wallets and marketplaces, and then use cases and solutions being built on top of that tech stack. I joined Hedera at the start of 2021 alongside the launch of the Hedera token service. And so it really was coming into an ecosystem to build out this use case of NFT projects. But consumer engagement really is about the fact that NFTs do a great job of connecting brands with consumers. And brands really cover media and entertainment and gaming IPs, celebrity personas, sports and fashion brands, and consumers are fans or communities around IP, whether they know it or not. And this is something which is getting a lot of traction because people now have more of a direct relationship with a branded asset. And you can use that to trigger all sorts of exciting consumer engagement projects and activities.
And I think you gave a little hint at it, but what's the current status on Hedera of consumer engagement, and what specific projects should listeners be paying more attention to?
Well, as I said, we launched the fund to build out kind of the primary pieces needed in an NFT ecosystem, your wallets, your marketplaces, and then bringing on use cases to show the fact that we do have games, we do have sports projects using the Hedera network in order to kind of go out to the industry and go out to brands and partners to show that these use cases are working. But what we've done a great job of building over the last few years through a bear market as well is an ecosystem of your B2B or B2B2C partners. And the idea here is to have partners who can't just deliver Hedera tech, but also the design and knowledge to make brands actually have a working business around this kind of innovative Web3 technology. So we've had multiple partners building now for a long time, building solutions, pitching them to brands, building brand pipelines, iterating on those solutions. And so, the coming quarter, we're excited to see those actually scaling up. In terms of names to look into, if you're interested in celebrities, we have fan engagement platforms like Galaxy and also Zoop, where the founder there, RJ, was part of the founding team of OnlyFans. In the fashion space, we saw one of our partners, Miu, launch with their first kind of luxury fashion partner at Milan Design Week, Baxter ID, and they'll be going into the fashion branded space very, very shortly with first use case and projects there. But again, behind these go lives are very strong brand pipelines. I think one of the things we've been talking more about on Twitter Spaces and pieces with these partners is it takes a long time, actually not so long maybe to build a solution, but a long time to build those relationships with brands and understand what needs to be delivered. Another partner you'll be hearing more from is Voltic, a very exciting fashion project. And then in the sports space, your Web3 community will be very familiar with Karate Combat. If you're a cycling fan, definitely check out Road Codes, a platform with 150,000 users playing a fantasy game, seeing live data and a whole new ranking system for the cycling industry. Locker Room, a partner, has just launched a US cricket platform. Momental is launching another US sports league platform. Very, very cool. And in the gaming space, Tony is going to speak more about what Reality Plus is doing there. We also have Michael Mumbauer, the ex-head of PlayStation Studio, with a company called Lithos. I don't want to be just spraying out too many names there, but I definitely recommend looking at the Hedera ecosystem pages and upcoming announcements. A lot of really great partners working with some really, really cool brands.
Thank you. And I think that's a great segue for you, Tony, to tell us more about Reality Plus and your relationship with THF and the Hedera Network.
So Reality Plus, as I mentioned, is a games company. So my number one job is to make great games. That's all we want to do is to go out there and it's great game, great game, great game. That's how you get millions of players. But we are absolute fans and believers in Web3. So I'm also a big fan of bringing and working with big brands and IP. So in previous companies, I've worked with movie brands from Paramount, Universal, Fox. And the reason I like working with those is because it immediately brings me millions of followers, millions of fans that love that IP. And so early on, we were looking at what the most popular games were in blockchain. And it was trading card games. It's Gods Unchained. And the fact that you could own cards and trade them, that gaming concept just makes sense in blockchain games. So we were looking at that particular vertical, but going out there and finding us a brand that could automatically bring us a very big fan base. And also in the trading card game, a brand that could give us a lot of trading cards, a lot of characters, a lot of elements that could fill up the packs of cards. And one of those was Doctor Who. And the great thing about Doctor Who, it's owned by the BBC, and the BBC are just around the corner from us in London. So we knocked on their door, and this was 3 years ago now. And we went in there and we presented the idea of licensing or wanting to license Doctor Who to make a blockchain trading card game. And although people have a perception of the BBC as being quite old and boring, actually they're not. They're very forward thinking. In fact, they were the first to bring out the iPlayer, right? You know, and the streaming platform. The issues around going in and presenting blockchain and NFTs, you know, 3 years ago was that it was so new. It took a lot of education, and in fact, it took nearly a year to get that license. Many meetings, many assumptions. What's an NFT? What's a blockchain? How does it work? Where's the monetization part? But eventually we got it, and we started to build a Doctor Who trading card game, similar, I suppose, at the time to Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone or Gods Unchained in terms of the Web3 element. However, I really wanted it to be a mobile game because I'm from the mobile industry, and I know that if you get a game that is engaging and fun on mobile, you can very easily get millions and millions of daily active users. And when you compare Web3 now to what the potential could be from Web2, you know, I think Pixels now, I think that's a really popular Web3 game, you know, has about 300,000 daily active users. Or when you compare that to something like, I don't know, Monopoly Go, that has 4 million daily active users. You know, the comparisons right now in numbers are black and white. So we started to create a mobile game, and we now have a very fun, very quick Marvel Snap style Doctor Who game, which has the potential to have millions of players. And you can play this from the App Store without even knowing about the NFT part. So we've come at this from Web2 first, mass market, get the players in, and then we slowly introduce them to Web3. We go, you know, these cards that you've just bought and you've crafted and you've earned in the game. Well, if you go across to the website, you can connect the two accounts, and the cards will come across, and we will mint them as NFTs on the Hedera blockchain, and you can trade them within our marketplace. So we don't mention the word NFT, we don't mention the word blockchain. We talk about digital collectibles that you own, and we market this at the mass market Web2 mobile gamer, which can potentially bring us millions of players because of the brand and the platform it's on, and slowly introduce them to Web3. So it's not, we're not shouting NFTs, we're not throwing it down your throat from the beginning. And I think that approach is the right approach right now. You know, I've seen lots of great Web3 games, but you know, it's a difficult market. It's a small market to get into. Well, we want to flip it on its side and go mass market and then introduce you to this seamlessly, frictionless. And the great thing about Hedera, there's no wallets to download. It's all built into our blockchain platform.
Very interesting. So I love the, you know, very specific and intentional strategy on the consumer acquisition side. Now let's talk a bit about brand acquisition strategy. Maybe Alex, can you speak more to Hedera's strategy around brands and what are the key differentiators that the Hedera networks bring?
So as Tony said, brands are important because they have these existing really massive audience. People are interested in the brand. They're more susceptible to trying a new product or a new platform or a game. So it's really about access to that audience and activating that interest to bring them into a new world of Web3 technology and products. But also brands are significant because they flow into multiple physical and virtual spaces. So when you have a relationship with a brand, they might bring you into a virtual world or into an e-commerce store or into a sports platform. You see brands flowing into many different spaces, arguably with fewer restrictions than something like a fiat currency. Louis Vuitton handbags are all around the world, for example. And I think in my mind, we're in a sort of fourth stage of brands interacting with blockchain. I see kind of phase one as brands going, oh, we can sell these NFT things on Ethereum. Phase two was brands waking up to the fact that Ethereum was expensive and also was bad for the environment, so looking for alternatives. Phase three was really, how can we maximize this revenue stream from Web3 users? But the phase we're currently in is brands waking up to the fact that they don't have effective consumer engagement strategies. They have huge audience potential. You have people who you just casually watch a football game, they're a fan of a team, but they're not part of any kind of mailing list. They're not part of a fan platform. So they're not being properly monetized outside the space of a stadium, for example, in the sports space. And so brands are actually looking for consumer engagement solutions, and they want those solutions to be on Web3 rails. So there's a huge opportunity to insert the Hedera technology into what is often actually just a desperate look for solutions which take a brand from Web 1 to Web 2. You're not even straight up to Web 3. And this is where Hedera really has a differentiator in the sense that we've been trying to build what I call an ecosystem as a service. So in the same way, a product like Salesforce is a product suite of different features, the Hedera Network is a product suite, is an ecosystem of different partners and solutions that you can pick and choose from. And so the strategy is to land the brand with a partner like Tony, or with a ticketing platform, or even a basic NFT platform, but then upsell them on other Hedera services or partners, and bring them into more of the Hedera ecosystem. And that creates stickiness, that creates a relationship with a brand. And that means the Hedera blockchain isn't just an alternative database that could be unplugged at a later point. DLT really needs that interoperability to mean something to consumers. And that's where I'd say brands are being used to create marketing events or launch products on other networks. But I always look into, and I always suggest people look into, what is the relationship with the brand? Because there's a lot of licensing deals going on where, a good example, now that they have gone bankrupt, would be Recur, which raised $50 million. They sold out their Star Trek NFTs, but then they went bankrupt. Those NFTs still exist, but they're backed by a licensee who is now bankrupt. They're not backed by Paramount itself. And that's where it's good to call out Reality Plus's relationship with BBC. They have a joint venture on this game. The Doctor Who assets are actually backed by the real owner of the IP. And I think that's critical, building relationships with the brands themselves so they care about these assets, and then you can push those assets into multiple different spaces, and through that, the Hedera technology as well.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about, Alex, the Paramount Star Trek stuff. There was no utility there. And I go back to my point earlier. You have to, the game and the quality of the game is so important. That comes first. Make a fun, engaging game, then offer consumers the addition of ownership. And I mean, you talk about brands wanting to get into it. I mean, consumers, the reason it was difficult to start with, and I think blockchain games got negative press and NFTs, is the amount of friction and pain that was involved in playing a blockchain game was a real turnoff. Having to download wallets, having to change up your fiat currency into cryptocurrency, that cryptocurrency then buy the in-game currency, that in-game currency then buys the, oh my God, I know from launching games in the past that if you put any barrier in front of a gamer, they go, bye-bye, delete, and they're off to the next game, especially mobile gamers. They just want a fun game that they can play. So our job at Reality Plus is when that user downloads our game, and if you take Doctor Who as an example, it's a fun, great game to play, and it seamlessly draws you into the world of NFTs and ownership. And the core loop, actually, what's interesting about Doctor Who, in fact, I think we have an image here, if it wants to come up, is the more, here we go here, the more you play in the game, the more you win in the trading card game, the more XP points you get. The more points you get allows you to choose frames that go around this card. So if you play really well and you win a lot of games, you can then have a selection and you choose your frame. Then you win more points, and then you can buy materials, and then you earn more points and you get currency. Add them all together and you can start crafting your own card, right? So the one at the end there has a frame around it. It actually animates as well. It's full 3D. You can spin it around. It's not just about a card game. It's about actually trying to win and earn materials and currency to then craft your own card and make it unique make it your own, and then you can show it off to other players. We call it peacocking. This becomes your avatar. It shows that you are a super player. And if you go to the next slide, so you've now crafted your card. You've now taken it to the website. It's now minted as an NFT. Through your gameplay, you've now created this card, and then the metadata of how well you've done in the game, and then what that doctor brings with it in terms of intelligence and influence, etc. That metadata is built into the NFT and then minted as well. So when you click on it, and if you want to trade it, you can see the metadata, you can see the uniqueness. No one else has got this because you've worked really hard to earn it and get there. And then you can either just keep it and show everyone how great you are, or you can trade it because it has rarity. And that game loop is really engaging because it's making you play to create something really cool that you're a fan of that perhaps has a value. So I think there's a last slide here. It's just an example of some different frames. But that, this is not just about buying an NFT and getting a low serial number and going, this has value. This is about bringing the game into a fun game and you creating something based on time and effort that you've put into it that you now own. And I think that game loop is very engaging and gets users coming back, and how we integrate Web 2 players, right, into the world of Web 3 without them even knowing it.
Super interesting, and as a big fan of Doctor Who, that's pretty exciting. And the collection is called Worlds Apart, right? Doctor Who Worlds Apart.
Yeah, Doctor Who-worldsapart.com. It's live now. You can go onto the site.
And so, can you tell us more? And you hinted a bit on it, but about its significance. How did the project come about, and your relationship with the various IP licensing entities? And your roadmap.
So we've now created this. It is actually live on PC, Mac, and PC now, so you can download it from the website. It's live now on app stores worldwide, excluding the UK and the US, and the UK and US go live in October. And there's many reasons why this happens, but in mobile gaming, and this is why we've worked with Hedera and kind of working with their community, and why this takes so long and it's not ready now is because you have to get the metrics right with mobile games. If I launch in the UK from day one and haven't worked on the retention and the engagement and everything that goes around the metrics and the data of making a game good, and it falls over, players will never come back. So you generally have to you go through a 3-month cycle in tier 2 countries, and hence why the tier 1 is obviously the UK and US. And you need to hit sort of day 1 metrics of 30% returning users as a minimum, and day 7 15%, and so on. And then you can see whether they're going through the tutorial. You can see if where they're falling off, what cards are they liking, what they aren't. And then you get to a point where you go, we can now press the release button. And when we press that in October, we are putting together a big campaign with Hedera around not just Web 2 collectible card game players and Doctor Who fans, but also people in Web 3 that understand NFTs that now want a really fun utility to go and use them in, and bring all of those kind of cohorts together. So we really kicked this off in October. That's the key month to us.
Awesome. And what's going to be the role of those NFTs or DLT assets in that Doctor Who game?
So when you build and craft it, that what you then mint is your own to show off. It proves that you are a skilled player, and as I say earlier, it's called peacocking. With the whole frame, you can't use that in the game, but you can bring it in and you can show it off as an avatar, and then you can and I think fans of Doctor Who, I mean, I've worked with Disney on Star Trek, on Star Wars before, and Star Wars. You think Star Wars fans are hardcore? Doctor Who fans, they literally they will know if the color of the TARDIS is slightly the wrong color blue. I mean, they are all over this. And for them, building something that they own and want to show off as a collectible, right? Remember, this is the fans of Doctor Who just love collectibles. That this is what it's about. Yeah, that's the NFTs.
And I think, Tony, you've had you've sold 1.2 million cards, or you've had packs.
Yeah,
so 1.2 million NFT cards. So it's huge. There's endless lore with Doctor Who.
Yeah,
so almost like the more niche, the more appealing it is to Doctor Who fans.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing. So before the game even came out, we were selling packs of cards. That's now changed now to an in-app purchase. But before, we were selling packs on the website, and we were doing that for a couple of reasons. One, it was there was a limited amount of packs, so we wanted to create rarity and for fans to come in early and buy these packs. And in each pack was 10 cards, and you could trade them without even the game being out. Right, this is just people having some fun and trading them. Yeah, and that's we minted about 1.5 million cards without any game to play. Purely people just coming in and just having fun with collectibles, right? So I think now that there is a utility that you can now back these into and show off, and as I say, our aim as a business is to not bring hundreds of thousands of people. I want millions of people playing this and moving into the world of Web3. That's our mission.
So how do you think about your KPIs, right? Your key metrics you want to be aware, both on the Web 2 side and on the Web 3 side?
Well, on Web 2 side, there's very standard metrics that you've got, KPIs that you've got to hit, right? As I mentioned, you have to get the returning users coming back. They have to want to come back. So if you download it today, a good game should be getting 30 to 50% of today's download players coming back tomorrow, and day 7 between 15 and 20%, and day 30 around about 10%. You get to those metrics, you've got a mobile game where people like to return. So the gameplay is working. Obviously, there's KPIs on ARPU, like average revenue a user is spending. What's amazing on the website, it's not that many. We had about 35,000 registered users, and the average revenue per user was $300. I mean, that's in mobile, that's unheard of unless you're a super whale. Like, you just don't spend that much money. So you can see already the passion around the fan base of Doctor Who fans who just love owning collectibles that are rare. So if we're minting 1.5 million cards on 35,000 players with an average revenue of 300, imagine what that's going to be like when there's 1 million players. But it's different now. It's mobile. It's a different metric. So combining PC and mobile together, I think you have to treat them differently, as well as the trading platform. So NFL Rivals, if I can give you a sort of look at something similar. So NFL Rivals is a mobile first game that allows you to buy NFL players as cards, and then if you connect to their website, you can mint them and you can trade them in the mythical marketplace. It's exactly the same as Doctor Who in terms of the way they're doing it. And their CEO a couple of weeks ago announced that 20% of their revenue now comes from the trading platform as opposed to just in-app purchase, which is awesome, right? If that's an amazing stat. If you get 1 million players and 200,000 of them are trading and they're Web 2 learning about Web 3, that's an amazing KPI, right? So it shows that people are very interested in ownership, right?
Totally, and that's not the first thing you've launched, right? So the first significant project where the HBAR Foundation and Reality Plus first combined forces was when you created a unique fan engagement platform for the cycling industry, so namely Road Code. Alex, can you share what you both learned from that first collaboration? How did those lessons shape what you're doing now, what you plan to do in the future, and your strategy?
Yeah, so Tony and I probably go back quite far. I remember talking to Reality Plus about scaling solutions for Ethereum, perhaps back in 2020, and really in response to the speeds and cost of Ethereum Reality Plus set up their own private blockchain to launch the Doctor Who cards in order to get that scale in the short term. And we then synced up as a Paris Blockchain Week. It was Tony, and there's a recording of a panel that we sat on, and I love kind of capturing that moment because we had spoken just before, discovered that we aligned on a lot of thinking in terms of your brands, and it's a very short pitch, I think, in the end of Hedera's technology. And then after that panel, we kind of did a handshake deal on let's go ahead with road code. And road code was exciting because, again, in terms of your IP and brands, road code is backed. It is, the company includes Velon, which is the organization of the top 10 pro cycling men's teams. So you're not licensing the IP, you have the full backing of the teams, their brands, you have access to their assets, and you know that you're going on a long-term journey with long-term people. And it's just a fascinating insight into what is one of the top 6 watched sports in the world. Obviously, it's huge fan bases around specific cyclists, but then a lot of people are just passionate cyclists themselves. I have many friends actually who just need to cycle every week and have all of the home gear and equipment and cycle against other people online. But as an industry, it's not very effectively monetized or run. The Tour de France is this huge event every year, but it doesn't include the teams. It doesn't actually share much revenue with the riders themselves. And then talking to the teams, we got to interact through the Road Code project and the Reality Plus. It's amazing talking to a whole load of different sports teams. And when you say to them, oh, how many fans do you have? The head of sponsorships, the team manager, they'll kind of look at each other and go, oh, that's a good question. I'm thinking, how do you not have that data to hand? You're kind of grabbing together sort of who's following who on Instagram or Twitter. Often it's amazing how, again, talking to C-suites of major soccer teams that you'd have heard of, they're still operating off your spreadsheet with emails. It's Web 1 level where you're sending a single email to a whole emailing list. You're not breaking it down. You're not segmenting your consumer base. And so road code was fascinating for reasons that really resonate across the whole sports industry in my mind. But that transparency of data, being able to easily say like, oh, we have X number of people holding our team NFT. We see these people trading. You actually have data that you can provide on to partners and sponsors. And also with the road code platform, they're capturing a Web 2 activity like watching videos or liking videos, your actual kind of your engagement and user sessions, and hashing that onto the Hedera consensus service, which is one of our primary network services on Hedera, and using that to actually share your real engagement information with sponsors. So sponsors aren't just trusting that there's a lot of user activity or all the people who have signed up are actually using the platform. You have that reporting structure. So there's a whole number of applications, not just in the consumer engagement space, but also providing transparency, but tying together your fan base in a more meaningful way. That was just a very exciting project and a great first piece to collaborate on with Tony.
It's funny going back to only 2 years ago. I remember that conference and I remember that panel, and it's amazing how quickly the technology's moved on from those conversations, how much better it is. In the next 2 years, players don't care about how games are run. They don't care if it's on Unity or Real Player. They just want to know, is it a good game and how do you play it and what can I do? And that's where we need to get to with games now. And we're getting there, is they just go back to the point, make it a really fun game, and then seamlessly integrate NFTs and blockchain into it without them knowing. That's what needs to happen.
I think you're right, Tony. It's when you look back through the past few years, we now have much better technology, much better solutions. But in a way, the topics at conferences, I feel, are the same. It's been the same kind of themes, the same things that people have been excited about for coming up half a decade now. But what I think Tony can maybe speak to as well is, again, this strategy of your B2B partners, this ecosystem as a service. Tony isn't just building the game for Doctor Who and other brands. It's a kind of your collectible card game tech stack, but also pitching the next branded opportunities and projects in collaboration with other Hedera partners. I think that kind of really speaks to the fact that we are leveling up this conversation. It's not just single siloed platforms that happen to run on blockchain. It's bringing together multiple partners. So Tony goes to brands and isn't just pitching the capabilities of the Reality Plus tech stack, but the ability to deliver other partners in that mix.
Yeah, and again, part of our marketing strategy, and this is what I love about the Web3 community, is that we know their wallet address. You've registered on Doctor Who simply with an email address and password, and we've created you an Hedera wallet. To the user, they've just got an account, but now it's a wallet address that we know. So we can send you airdrops and gifts and packs of cards in seconds, and that closeness, that engagement is really lovely to see. But that can also transfer to other projects that Alex is working on. So he might be working on, with another company where the two of us I can offer Doctor Who cards and airdrop them to someone else in return for that fan base signing up to playing Doctor Who. It's a connection that you don't get in the world of Web 2 and, well, certainly Web 1.
And that's really where the Hedera Network becomes of interest, of kind of immediate interest to global brands, because we position ourselves as your consumer insights network. It's a way to actually gain your data on your user base. Often you're matching. The magic really comes when you can match that public Web3 data with the private Web2 data that companies continue to collect. So it's showing them the fact that you can augment the data you already have and then run these amazing user acquisition campaigns and engagement strategies. But kind of sprinkling a brand on the Hedera network, you can see where those branded NFTs kind of land, or kind of where they move to. You're seeing your brand collected by Doctor Who fans, by pro cycling fans. That's kind of what resonates increasingly with your brand managers.
And then another brand you did a project was FIFA. And so I think that will be quite interesting to hear there how, first, about that specific project, but how it uniquely incorporated Web3 aspects in it.
Yeah, so this was interesting. So we call it a spatial platform, which is basically a platform that integrates a chain, but it also integrates into the sport itself and collects live data while the game is being played. So the FIFA deal was during the Women's World Cup. It was called Own the Zone. If you downloaded, this was the game Own the Zone, you could watch the live match, and then on your secondary device, like a phone or an iPad, if you download Own the Zone, you choose a zone on the football pitch. It was cut into 4 quarters. So I'll have zone 1, which is this quarter, and you guessed what was going to happen, or you predicted what was going to happen in that zone in the next 5 minutes. Now, we got live data. I mean, literally, FIFA's incredible. Every shirt now has a chip, so they can tell where the player is, 1 inch away in real time on the pitch. The football has a chip, right? So everything is live data, and the data. So we worked really closely with FIFA on how to connect real live data into our platform, and then watch players predict what was going to happen, and then at the end of that 5 minutes, we go, you were correct, and you went on to a leaderboard. You won points, the one that predicted the best. And at the end of the match, there was a leaderboard of thousands of players, and the winner received official FIFA stamped NFTs, right? One of a kind, right? There was no utility behind it. It was, you will never get these again. By coming first, it's like you won the cup, but they were NFTs and designed and approved and officially stamped by FIFA. There were some real world cash prizes, but the key thing was, you got NFTs by predicting the best. And that platform that we've built, could be used in the Men's World Cup. It could also be used in other sports, right? Because every sports match now is data driven, and so it could be an NFL game, right? Predict what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes on this game. It could be, I don't know, it could even be golf. If it, I'm not sure a golf ball's got a chip in it, but who knows? So I want to take this platform, this spatial platform, out to other big sports companies. FIFA, a bit like the BBC, jewel in the crown to have in the portfolio. It's proven, it's worked with them. Now, how do we scale this? That's what's, we're in a market now that is about to fly, in my view. We've been around since 2017. That's, what's that, 7 years now. It's been a long time. We've seen the the highs, we've seen the lows, and we're starting to see the highs again. And that's with every platform. And in the gaming business, that happen all the time. In mobile games, when mobile games came out, every major AAA games company laughed. No one is going to play games on phones. Look what happened. That's a $200 billion market. Now, when Steam and PC games came out, everyone went, no one's going to. When free-to-play games came out on mobile, everyone was up in arms. It's the same here. We went through that cycle. No one's going to have NFTs. No, this stuff. But then you start to build quality games and quality product, and the consumers will come. And that's what we're doing now. And I think in the next 2 to 3 years, I think every game will have some kind of Web3 integration. I think consumers will demand ownership. Why go to Fortnite when I can go to this platform and I can own it and sell it when I finish with it? Now, there will be a Fortnite too, right? Whether it's the sandbox, I don't know, but there's, why should I spend £100 and then when I finished it, I've lost I can't do anything with my goods? What happens if the games company goes bust? All my items have gone. I think consumers aren't stupid, and blockchain solves all these problems. Now it's about the quality of the product.
And obviously Web3 game has been a huge focus of the DLT industry. And you've mentioned a few specificities, but Alex, how does Hedera approach gaming?
So I've been doing blockchain gaming also for a long time. Engine was a blockchain gaming company that was the first project to really look at building out an interconnected product suite of your NFT wallet, marketplace infrastructure, Explorer, developer tools for game developers to be integrating these assets. And the nice thing about gaming is they're virtual worlds, but they often kind of replicate the real world in terms of very advanced economies and building out specific kind of standards and interactions which can actually be used in the real world. So a huge amount of kind of your fascination around NFTs there, and grew our blockchain gaming ecosystem to more than 40 projects on Ethereum. But one of the things that I was aware of there, and I think is now inbound, is the fact that we're going to see a lot of Web3 games go live in the next 6 to 12 months. A lot of funding has gone into this space, and it's going to be really exciting in terms of this revolution of Web3 gaming hitting the market. But it does make me think about, in the 2010s, there was something called the indie apocalypse. Basically, it became too easy for indie game developers to make great games. And there were too many games. There were 30 games being published every week on Steam. And the issue was that there weren't enough player hours to interact with these games. If you liked your platform like Super Meat Boy, there's 350 levels. So there's just a huge amount of content to get through. So it all comes down to marketing to get someone to try your product for the first time. And so that feeds obviously, Tony mentioned, your quality. You want to make sure these games are good because you're introducing new technology to gamers who have high standards. But the marketing piece is huge. For AAA games, the marketing budget is at least 50% of the overall budget. The mobile games, it's 90%. You're getting users through the door into your game is hugely important. And so brands, do a lot of that lift. It's a kind of low risk way of making sure that people are actually going to engage, and then it's up to the project itself to succeed or fail. But you see many fantastic games in the Web2 space just not catch the imagination of an audience. Maybe the lore they've designed is too similar to something else. But it's just unusual for consumers. But then you look at, actually the Kim Kardashian fashion game was pretty good, but Bella Hadid did a terrible, really, really terrible fashion game on mobile. But people engaged with it because it was associated with her brand. And so your brands are a safe way to make sure that you're shipping quality, because there's also, or we're working with partners who are quality. There's a reason BBC is trusting Tony to build their mobile game. But it's also, that fan base is going to at least give it a shot and download. But beyond that, Hedera's been building out a really strong ecosystem of gaming infrastructure and technical partnerships. So we have a great EVM, which should be mentioned as well, on top of the Hedera token service. And unlike other networks, like perhaps Tezos and Mutable, who are going, oh no, we're not relevant, we want to have our own EVM, but then you have to bridge in between those networks. Something that isn't often commented on is the fact that all of the services, the Hedera EVM, the token service, the consensus service, they do speak to each other natively and interact natively. You have smart contracts managing Hedera token service NFTs, for example. And But what is really important, and what my passion has been for many years now, is the interoperability of assets. What is the point of you having an NFT if, yeah, you can just show it off? But what you really want to be doing is taking it into another space. And obviously for loyalty, fan engagement, you go to perhaps a Doctor Who game and you already have cycling NFTs, you can perhaps be rewarded with some Doctor Who assets to introduce you to the project. But I think what's really going to resonate with consumers and gamers ultimately is that ability to take one of your assets between games. And I think Web2 gamers were mocking the Web3 space recently, saying, "Oh, has anyone taken their blockchain sword into another game yet?" And that's a business-wise difficult to do. Why would people support the assets? Also, on a technical level, your interoperability isn't as simple as recognizing an NFT. And one of our partners has built out a full Unity-based avatar system with full digital collectibles, Hedera programmability within the Unity engine, and allow you to take these avatars into multiple games built around the Unity engine. Also, sports platforms where you can have your own avatar, and you have cosmetic assets in digital fashion that moves between these platforms. I always look to Fortnite launching the digital-only Nike sneaker as an example of how brands get in there. If Nike goes to Fortnite and says for our next collection we want to do these as NFTs, will Fortnite say no to Nike? And on top of that, Nike will want that because they can actually see users who are their brand ambassadors, who is using these assets and buying them. And ultimately, that is going to show the mass user base of, let's say, Web2 gamers that these blockchain wallets really are your digital identity in your digital wardrobe. And yeah, you won't collect your NFT wallet containing all your Kim Kardashian NFTs to your Call of Duty game and your friend base there. But you're going to have multiple wallets with multiple personalities. And that's what we're finally going to ship this year, which is hugely exciting.
Very exciting indeed. And Tony, you've been through multiple evolutions of the video game industry. Where do you think Web3 is taking that industry? What's currently working well, or what needs to be improved as well?
Wow. I'm more excited about this vertical than any other I've been in, because I just see, I've mentioned it a few times in this podcast, I just see in-game ownership and interoperability so important. And it simply goes back to that. It goes back to, I've spent £100 in a game. What do you mean I don't own it? Now you do, and I can take it to a marketplace and I can trade it or somewhere else. So I think that's hugely important to any gamer. And now it's the games today, I don't think have been that compelling, but the games companies at the moment are inventing something new. All right, this did not exist in 2016. Didn't exist. So in a very short space of time, games are becoming much better, much easier to understand, and more seamless. There's no friction. And in another 7 years' time, as I mentioned, every game will have some kind of Web3 integration in it. So I think it's really exciting. I'm also a big fan of the metaverse. I think that seems to have a bit of a swear word attached to it right now, but metaverses are still hugely popular. I mean, Roblox has, I think it's 70 million daily active users. That's a metaverse. The sandbox or Decentraland, they will get there. It just takes a while to make these things. Roblox didn't launch overnight. That took nearly 10 years to become a popular platform. But ownership again in these metaverses, and I think the day will come when it'll be just as popular as Roblox. Yeah,
I will say for me, those kind of projects you're describing, Tony, are your virtual worlds, or maybe interconnected virtual worlds would be like a multiverse if you can take your kind of assets between multiple virtual worlds. But where I think the narrative around metaverse was lost was the context-aware nature or the frictionless movement between different physical and virtual spaces. And I think NFTs are crucial for that vision of the metaverse, not just living in a virtual world as proposed by Meta, for example, but being able to go to a supermarket and you'd be acknowledged as your loyal customer there. you go into a virtual world and have the digital versions of your physical assets. When that is frictionless and you're context aware, so you're not having to jump between your different wallets or permissions, that will be the true kind of ultimate vision of the metaverse, which is probably a long time away. But I did like that original narrative beyond just, oh, we'll live in a VR headset.
Yes, and there have definitely been a lot of propositions around those metaverses and how they will creep into our daily lives. All right. Well, thanks a lot for a lot of those very exciting projects and sharing those with us. I think we're about getting ready to have a few wrap-up questions. So, Alec, let's start with you. And how do you see the Hedera consumer engagement ecosystem evolving over the next 6 months? What are the key things to keep in mind there?
Well, I guess as mentioned, the partnerships we've made, have been your long-term people building long-term projects, very long established kind of enterprise brand pipelines, and during a bear market as well, which does mean that people hold off doing various launches. So I'd say we have a powder keg of launches and partnerships to announce and scale. And we want to have projects like Reality Plus and these great branded assets, you're reaching into the broader kind of Web3 community and audience. So one thing you'll be seeing is your Hedera assets appearing on multi-chain NFT platforms, for example. We want to really run campaigns to make the broader Web3 industry aware that actually we have great projects and even better assets with real utility. And the interest is amazing. It's people going, wait, this is live, this is working, this is an actual game. These aren't just collectibles and something is coming maybe later. So excited by the Web3 activations with kind of multi-chain platforms, also more of a EVM relevance, which is important for developers within the DLT industry. And alongside that as well, token launches. A lot of the consumer engagement platforms are the origination of a lot of token issuance. So seeing kind of more liquidity, more kind of retail opportunities to get hold of project tokens within the Hedera ecosystem. I think that's something that's exciting for the Web3 space. But in a broader industry perspective, it's really about taking our ecosystem now to multiple brands, and being able to show someone a pitch deck. That's one thing, but being able to direct them to a live use case with a live brand that validates that. That's when everything really starts to flywheel, and its partners actually being able to launch and show an existing brand relationship. The interest just skyrockets. So I know it's been a long time coming, but I've never been more excited about the ecosystem.
Awesome. And Tony, any final thoughts on where we'll see Reality Plus within the DLT industry and how you're going to be part of Hedera's own growth journey?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, our mission is to bring millions of Web2 players into Web3 by creating great games. If Doctor Who becomes successful, I can take that concept to other movie studios. I know we can go and license Star Wars, we can go and license Jurassic Park. We can start to bring in other big IP, which then brings in more millions of new fans into gaming and into Web3. So, I want millions of new players on the Hedera network making NFTs.
Actually, I'll use that for two final thoughts. In terms of your strategy around gaming, obviously we spoke about brands, but it's also about your platforms. What I really see when I look at the Doctor Who game isn't a Doctor Who game; it's a collectible card game tech stack. That Tony can then onboard almost endless brands onto, and alongside that, gamification solutions really critical. To be able to offer within this kind of ecosystem as a service, brands are actively saying like, how can we provide a gamified solution to our consumers? How do we get people excited? And so I'll kind of finish on the note of Tony has been co-pitching to a fashion brand on the one hand with one of our partners doing a more kind of business enterprise side digital certificate, maybe moving into the fintech space with InsurTech for luxury assets. But then on the consumer side, you're working with your digital fashion and avatar platform to push that brand into multiple areas. So it is about landing a brand, making them sticky across the Hedera network, and really providing that ecosystem as a service, saying, look, there's a menu list of high quality interoperable partners and solutions, that's easy. You don't go swim in a pool of 10,000 lone devs pitching stuff that doesn't scale.
Great to hear. Any final thoughts, or are we good to wrap up?
No, thank you very much.
Yeah,
It's been a
thank
good
you,
chat.
Sacha.
Thank you. Well, thanks everyone for joining for this Q3 2024 Hedera State of the Ecosystem. Always a pleasure to have you listen to this show, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome, thank you.